Well, good morning and welcome to Zen Fits again. This is the first time I've ever given 2 Zen Fits in one day. I'm just kind of pumped up and ready to go, and I just feel like this particular meditation, my writings are meditations. I get an idea and I meditate on it. I'll allow it to reveal itself to me. I will allow it to expose itself. I don't impose anything on it. I allow it to tell me what to write. And I get kind of pumped up about it. So what I'm working on right now is Star Wars versus Avatar. Star Wars versus Avatar. These are my 2 all-time big movies that I write about. And these are cultural shaping movies. Great movies shape culture like myths shape civilization. The study of Joseph Campbell has really opened my eyes to the power of myth as a shaping story for a civilization, a culture, a family, a business, a religion, a group, a rebellion. All of these are shaped by a story. A myth is like a fishbowl. The fish in it can't see the bowl, but they're shaped by it. And other fish bowls, which have different shape, become the enemy. So let's talk about Avatar and Star Wars and Avatars as myth-shaping movies. And now Joseph Campbell said that modern man, since the age of reason, 16th century, is in free fall because science erased all the ancient myths, even erased religion. This is where religion keeps trying to come back because science erased the story of, people, story of the Bible. We spend all the people spend a lot of time debunking the Bible. But it's a myth. You can't debunk it. It's like trying to debunk Alice in Wonderland or the 3 Bears or Rumpelstiltskin or what are all the myths and fairy tales. If you try to debunk them by saying, well, it's not rational. It's not rational. Has no evidence, you see. That's the scientific. It erases mythology. But science is a mythology. But science is shaped by a fishbowl. So let's take a look at Avatar. What kind of a myth is that? Now, Star Wars. We'll start with that. Because Star Wars was in the 70s. And now we have Avatar. And Avatar is replacing Star Wars. And they're different mythologies. Star Wars is a mythology that goes back to the ancient Greeks. The ancient Greeks were a culture of heroes. In the epics of Greece, in the Iliad and the Odyssey, this was a story or a narrative of heroes. Heroes, great warriors, Odysseus, Achilles, heroes on earth, and the gods in heaven were heroic. Now, so the Western mythology, the Western civilization has been shaped by the heroic individual. If you go to watch Brits like I do, and in all the mansions of England and Europe, the walls are hung with gigantic portraits of unique individuals, mostly men, except Queen Elizabeth, but mostly men, unique characters. They all have unique faces. Rembrandt depicted the character, the uniqueness of the individual. and heroes standing out. The hero could be a warrior, an inventor, a poet, an artist, but he stands out. He stands out from the crowd. He stands out from the herd. So the aristocracy, the royalty, the monarchy, you see, in England is a mythology of great heroes, where then you have the masses, the peasants, the masses, you see, the faceless crowd, you see. Now, Asian myths there are no heroes in Asian myths. The commandment of the Asian mythology is to be obedient to the whole, to be obedient to your culture, to disappear in it. Don't stand out and be a hero. Be humble, disappear, be nobody. The yogi doesn't stand out. No, he is invisible. So these two mythologies are basically orientating on different viewpoints. The West focuses on the heroic individual. The Eastern mythologies or traditions focus on dying to the whole, surrender to the whole, giving up the ego. So the West is enhance the ego. The East is give up, let go of the ego. These are in conflict. They're contradictory. You can't have the ego and let go of it at the same time. But in the West, the dominant mythology, starting according to Joseph Campbell, is the paganism. Paganism in Europe was a worship of the individual hero. The individual stood out, the warrior. The warrior, the individual. But this was conflicted with the mythology of the Levant, or Christianity and the church, which was a mythology or a commandment to surrender to God. Be humble, be a servant, disappear, be a monk. Don't stand out, surrender to God. But the paganism was stand out, be a hero. And these two contrast was the fight. The Middle Ages was a conflict between these two, the natural paganism and the overlay of Christianity. And they tried to, so you had to come up with a strategy, because you had to obey both commandments. They're both valid, you see, just in your own life. We want to belong. I want to belong to a family. I want to belong to a business, to a religion. I want to go to a club, belong to a club. I want to belong to a purpose, a mission. It's by belonging to something higher that your life has meaning. So we want to belong. We want to surrender to and become part of something great. But at the same time, you got to be unique. You got to be different. You got to stand out. You got to think outside the box. Follow your own dream. Make your own life. Steve Jobs sold Macs on this. The Mac man versus the PC man. There's two mythologies. The PC man was the IBM man, and we're just kind of like, the PC man just kind of like disappeared in Big Brother. And the Mac man was a natural man. He stood out, a unique individual, creative, intuitive. And the PC man was a Big Brother man, you see. So Steve Jobs sold his computers on that. Became a religion. I bought Macs. I wanted to be a Mac man. All right, so. But anyway, this mythology, these two conflicting mythologies morph into different content. So the Star Wars, getting back to that, you see, is a mythology of heroes. Luke Skywalker, the Jedi Knight, Han Solo. The Jedi Knight were unique individuals, heroic figures. And then you had Darth Vader and the evil empire. And the stormtroopers, the faceless stormtroopers, the robots, the PC man. So you can almost see the contact between the paganism, the heroic individual, versus the church that dissolved your separateness, your ego. So this two, individual versus the whole, is a formula that morphs through history, changing the content, but the pattern is the same. The conflict is the same. The contradiction is the same. The dilemma is the same. The double bind is the same. So these two views, these two commandments, these two imperatives, be unique, belong, be obedient, be unique, create the American culture, where these two commandments are just vying all the time to create new strategies, new ways of dealing with the contradiction, so you can have both at the same time. The only way out when you have two commandments, two imperatives that are contradictory, but you have to obey both. You must obey both. You cannot help but obey both. You cannot help but want to belong to a family, to some higher order. And you can't help but want to be unique and stand out. So we're always looking for home. We're always looking for that home where I can belong and be unique at the same time. We're looking for our people. We're looking for the job that respects my individuality, but yet lets me stay and work and belong to the company. Be obedient to the company, yet stand out as an individual. Be creative, yet this goes into the Bible. Thy will be done. Thy will be done is the will of the whole, the company, the business, the family, the religion, the politics, you see. But my will be done too. Otherwise, I don't exist. If my will dissolves into the big will, I don't exist. So I have to exist by being separate. So it's my will and thy will. And how can these two wills that are contradictory exist at the same time? Well, we have to come up with strategies. We have to come up with new ways. We have to invent new ways to obey both at the same time. So these two myths, Star Wars and Avatar. Now, Avatar is a mystical mythology of identity. This is an Eastern, this is Buddhism, yoga, identity with, belonging to nature, identifying with, merging with nature, with Pandora, you see. Becoming one with the light. With Star Wars is a war, a cosmic war. Goes all the way back to Zoroaster. The cosmic war of light against darkness, good against evil, with heroes fighting it out. This is the modern Iliad. And Avatar is a mystical point of view, where you give up fighting forever, where you stop, where you find a way to be both unique and not unique at the same time. And this is impossible. Yet, we must cut the knot. We must find a way. So anyway, we've got these two myths that are shaping our culture. It's interesting. One shaped the 70s. Now Avatar, the first one came out 10 years ago, I think, and now we got another one, and then we got a one after that. So we maybe have 2, 3, 4 avatars. And they are shaping the American culture in a way that solves the dilemma of Star Wars. It solves the dilemma, the contradiction of having a war against good and evil, which has been politicized, you see. So America has politicized Star Wars. So on the right you have the heroic people. Trump is a hero. He's just trying to sell action hero cars. He knows he's an action hero. He's a video game. And his followers believe they are fighting for the Republic in Star Wars. Trump is Luke Skywalker. And his followers are all Han Solo. And the liberals are stormtroopers. And Biden is Darth Vader, or Obama, or whatever the Democratic. So this whole Star Wars is morphed into politics, into a cultural war. It's a movie. And movies don't let it's a fantasy. And of course, the fantasy of Trump is losing its power. It's fading. Because it's not real, you see. Anyway, so Avatar is replacing Star Wars. The Avatar takes its roots in Buddhism, in Zen, as far as I'm concerned, and the personal discovery of the light within. Where is home? In Star Wars, it's out there. When you defeat the evil empire, you'll be home. But in Avatar, it's when you discover the home within. And the home within is in sync with the world without. So in Zen, the mantra is, coming and going, you never leave home. Going out, going in, you're always at home. But in the Star Wars, home is social. Home is my group, my party. My religion is home. And this religion is home because it's not them. So it's a war. It's a war of good. My home is good, their home is bad. And these are competing and fighting, so there would only be one home, one whole, and everybody would belong to the one home, you see. But in doing that, it creates two. It's a never-ending cosmic war of good versus evil. So where is the end of this war? Well, Avatar is pointing to the end. But it's an individual discovery, you can't get to heaven on a cruise ship. You can't get to heaven in a religion. You can't get to heaven, you can't get to peace in a group. You have to discover it on your own, you see. Like Jake Sully. Anyway, that's enough for today. Thanks for dropping in for the second time. Have a Zen fit.